There's something about Lilith Part 2. Each of these things have been condemned as evil and against God in ages past. But they have each become acceptable and commonplace, for the most part, in 21st century Western culture. Perhaps Lilith the demoness became Lilith the goddess in today's world because today's world is more agreeable with her nature than the ancient one was. The ancient world had no shortage of sexy fertility goddesses who encouraged their worshippers to have wild animal sex. But all of these goddesses were invoked for fertility, that is, in the interest of conceiving and giving birth to children. In that she has always been associated with sex and fornication, Lilith is not all that different from such fertility goddesses. But she is different in one very important way: her influence was not considered to be very lucky if you expected to conceive a child during sex. In fact, we might call Lilith an infertility goddess, a spirit who encourages her worshippers to have wild animal sex strictly for pleasure and never for procreation. Given this context, it is very easy to understand why even places like ancient Babylon, which were known for their blatantly sexual fertility cults, would hate and fear someone like Lilith. Her attitude toward sex, that is, for pleasure only, was just too blasphemous for them to handle. But here in the 21st century, it's become a sacred rule of thumb. Most people in today's world want to be able to have sex without worrying about making any babies. Perhaps this is because in ancient times, a culture depended upon large numbers of offspring in order to survive. But in modern times, the earth is vastly overpopulated. We don't need to reproduce like we did when we were still using sundials to tell the time. And perhaps this is why Lilith has received such popular sympathy in modern Western culture. Just as Set is the lord of this world, perhaps Lilith is truly the lady of this age. There are at least 4 ways of telling the two of them apart from each other. 1. Lilith has really only had one name throughout the history of her manifestations, or rather, all of her names come from the same root, El-Mael. Set, in contrast, has had more applicable names and titles than you can easily shake a hoof at. 2. Lilith deals more specifically and immediately with the sphere of human sexual relationships, while Set deals more with basic human nature in general. 3. Lilith would appear to only ever manifest as a feminine energy, while the devil has been known to manifest under both masculine and feminine forms. 4. There's just something about Lilith that grants her a higher rate of acceptability even within close-minded circles, while Satan is often considered taboo even within the most open-minded circles. I first met Lilith for myself during the autumn of 1999. It was a time in my life when I was beginning to explore the feminine side of Satan. You see, the Dark One revealed himself to me as Tiamat at this time, and of course Tiamat was viewed as a feminine principle in Sumer and Babylon. Because of this personal revelation, I felt driven to learn all I possibly could about ancient goddess worship. In books like When God Was a Woman by Merlin Stone, which was perhaps the most important book I was reading at this time, the details about ancient goddess worship are often viewed through the rose-tinted glasses of modern feminism. Nevertheless, my interest in celebrating the divine female led me to invoke the spirit of Lilith one night. On that unforgettable evening, I learned that there really is something to those old medieval tales about close encounters with succubi after all. Since then, Lilith has been an ever-present force in my life. She has blessed me in many ways, most particularly in the development of a friendship that I hold very dear. This friendship is with a woman who I swear is the closest thing to a human incarnation of Lilith that there will ever be. She is not even a believer, but just like Lilith, she is independent, powerful, and has a very commanding presence. She takes life by the throat and takes what she wants from it. She knows how to get what she desires, and she wastes no time. She will never be subservient to any man, or to any other woman, for that matter. Her Lilithian personality is one that I admire very strongly, and I wish that all women everywhere could be just like her. From my own experiences with her, I view Lilith as being one of the many angels, that is, Greek for messengers who are in the devil's service, as discussed in my first sermon. But she is not just any old angel. I see her as Set's second in command, the devil's archangel. She is the emissary of Set, who is princess of hell and goddess of this age. My relationship with her is secondary to the one I have with Seth himself, but I nevertheless consider it to be very meaningful and important. Lilith worship is just as much a part of my Satanism as devil worship. And with that in mind, I say Hail Lady Lilith.